So let's get a little into this where the narcissist a lot of times says that we're too sensitive. And I experienced two different things that I want to share with you to give you some insight. What are our expectations? Have they been clearly outlined in the beginning? And the reason I say this is update on my Parmesan cheese. I did get it back from the other neighbor, but when he returned it, I'm packing to move, and I'm like, sorry, my house is a mess. And he's like, well, you didn't say anything about it yesterday, because he picked something up the day before, and it was a mess yesterday, and it was actually worse today. But his comment, I said, sorry, my house is a mess, and he's like, oh, you didn't say anything about it yesterday. And I was like, fuck you. So not that I should say that, but sometimes we have to know our person and also the tone. So if I had said it in a different tone, it could have been something that could have sent him off. I'm not saying this has nothing to do with being a narcissist. This is knowing our people, knowing our expectations, and our self-esteem. So for one thing, I had an excuse why my house was a mess. That helps with the comfort. Sometimes there's a reason that gives us comfort and expectations. He's not my boyfriend. He's not my husband. And the expectations I put on myself would be to provide a clean home for my person. So he's not my person. So I'm still in a little bit more comfort because I don't feel like I'm failing. I know I have stuff to do. I live alone. I'm not upsetting anybody. I'm not expecting company, had company. And so what are our expectations? Do we place too many pressures on ourselves? Because if I was married right now, I'd be feeling like I'm failing. I feel like I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do. I would have empathy towards this, might make the other person uncomfortable. And when you start to deal with a narcissist, they pick up on your insecurities. So it would be a lot easier for a narcissist to complain instead of understand, like, hey, it's going to be a mess for a while, we're moving. And I was watching a video where, who knows if it was a real video, you can't even tell anymore, but it was a guy and a girl on a roller coaster, and she's all excited, and he's like, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do it. He starts freaking out, and she's like, just raise your hands, and she's all ready for a great time. She's kind of wrapped up in the moment, and they start going through the roller coaster, and he's like, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do this, you always make me do things that I don't want to do. And the ride continues, and he's getting more and more upset because he's getting more and more uncomfortable. Finally, he says, after he says so many times, always do what you want, you always make me do things I don't want to do. And eventually he says, I want to break up, I want to break up. So she's in the middle of this, woo, wait a minute. And by the end of the ride, there's silence, and they go their separate ways. So he's upset with her because he didn't set his boundaries. For whatever reason, he was either too afraid to lose her, so he didn't want to upset her. But in the end, he got so upset because he didn't uphold his boundaries. Whose fault was it? She should have picked up on him being uncomfortable. He should have felt more comfortable being able to bring his fears. And sometimes when we get all excited, we want to encourage somebody, like, you're going to love this. It's the best because it is coming from our perspective. Sometimes it's hard to see the other person's perspective, or we're like, well, I was afraid the first time I went on a roller coaster and then I loved it. And so we think that it's going to be okay. So that has to be up to that person if it's okay. And relationships sometimes can end like that over not setting your boundaries or not listening or picking up on your person. So I just thought it was interesting, my comfort level of having a messy house with somebody I had a different expectation on myself, a different responsibility to. So, sometimes we want to be the perfect wife or the perfect mate. And sometimes, if we realize that we're human, that the self-esteem in both of those, with not setting the boundaries for the roller coaster, or, if it was somebody who is not wanting to hear those words, I probably shouldn't hear those words, but the way I was like, fuck you, we were pretty playful. He knew I didn't really mean it, but other people are like, why did she say that to me? So knowing our person, but with a narcissist, you do not know who they are, because you can play with them and then eventually they either play back too hard or in an inappropriate way. So they might be like, fuck you. Well, you say it. And it's like, whoa, I say it when it's playful. So it's a tricky tightrope that you walk. And know your person. Our expectations, though, picking our battles, because some of these relationships can be saved. Others, it's going to cause more damage, or it's going to be almost insurmountable, and it causes brain damage. So unless things change now or are in a momentum towards healing, you should always grow with your person. There are times we're going to be stagnant, but we don't want to regress. And there's ups and downs in life. There's misconceptions, there's perceptions, expectations, and relationships are tricky. But if we follow what love is meant to be, and we have to be strong at the same time, though, we have to build ourselves up. I was watching, or I experienced today when there was a fight at school, that one girl challenged the other guy. And by this time they took it out of the classroom. I wasn't in the classroom, so I don't know the exact fight, but it seemed like the instigator was the one that ran away. Luckily, this one maintained composure, even though he was fuming, and he was instigating back with that reactive abuse, challenging her. He probably would have won if they scrapped it out, but luckily he just used his words. He just used challenging words. He didn't cut her down. He didn't say anything hurtful to her. So a narcissist will hurt a lot of times in that situation. So he wasn't being hurtful. He was trying to exert dominance or a boundary, like, don't F with me. I'm not taking this. And who was the stronger one in that situation? She was the instigator. She was not the stronger one. Now, he was the one being picked on. So sometimes from a quick glimpse, it seems like he was the weaker one. So sometimes when we feel that we're weak, we don't realize that we're the strong ones. And he held his ground. Sometimes we need to hold our ground. Don't get into a big fight. But when things get in that fight or flight mode, people don't hear things. People don't hear things, or they hear minimal. So I could see that the words I was saying to him, he kind of didn't want to hear it. It was interesting. I said, she's not worth it. Now, we're all human. And I started thinking about that. Why did I say she is not worth it instead of it, the fight? So what I meant by that in reflection, because I'm not saying humans aren't worth it. What I am saying is she is not the person to give your energy to. Does she have a right to live? Does she have a right to be heard? All those kind of things. But does she have a right to our energy? Does she have a right? He was giving her his emotions. He was giving her his passion, his anger. Sometimes when we express our anger, we want to get rid of it. But when we get rid of it, sometimes it escalates things. So if we can learn to control our emotions or get different outlets or handle it, to realize in the end what is going to make the situation better. I know some people want revenge. Revenge a lot of times will backfire on you. Don't give them that energy. So when I say they're not worth it, they're humans. They're not worth our energy. They're not worth our energy. If they're going to die, call 911. We don't always have to be the savior. Sometimes we can do the right thing. It's up to you guys what you do with it, but sometimes it gets really tricky. But our expectations on ourselves, because if I had a husband in the home, I might have felt like walking on eggshells because I would have felt that I was a failure instead of, hey, look, we're moving. It's a different attitude, different vibrations. And if you're confident in yourself, if you can set those boundaries, that relationship on the roller coaster, if they handled it differently, babe, go have fun. No, I'm going to go get us some corn dogs and I'll meet you over here. If it's a secure relationship, it would have been saved. So there's a lesson in almost everything. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Share if this will help someone. Topic requests really help with the video production, and they are always appreciated. I'm here to help you.